Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome and where you can listen in on how other parents became the parents they always dreamed of being. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Parenting Way. I'm a mother, a parenting coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddos. Hello, and welcome to the maiden voyage of Parenting Pause, the podcast. I'm Leslie Potter, your host and guide in parenting the Pure Joy Way. I wanted to share with you today a bit about how this podcast came about and how organically it began to morph into something greater than I ever expected. Originally, I was encouraged to share the work I created through Pure Joy Parenting by my clients and friends. And yet, as I began doing the first recording, I asked a few of the parents I work with to join me to share how the work changed their parenting and reconnected them with themselves and their children. Well, in talking with the parents, it became clear the podcast was all about them and their stories. As they shared the profound shifts and changes which took place in their homes, I began to see the impact of the work in a new way, and I decided to let their voices be heard. They're touching, inspiring, messy, uncomfortable, and deeply profound. I'm thrilled to share these amazing stories with you and look forward to hearing their impact on your parenting journey. So welcome, dear, and I'm very excited that you're here with me today to share a little bit, and I would love to hear a little bit about you and, what your exploration has been about and why you kind of came this way. What was the interest in this style of working?
Yes. So I have a 4 years old and I waited 35 years to become a mother. I decided I was going to be a mother at 35 because it was time. And I was very scared that it was going to be a nightmare, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what brought me to this work, because it was not supposed to be that way. I had a hard pregnancy, and it was not easy, and it was not an easy birth either. And then she would cry day and night.
Mm-hmm.
And after a year and a half, I had no idea who I was anymore, what I was doing. Living was just a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find answers. There was no way out. It's all kind of a blur, I kept waiting for it to get better, and then it never came. So she wouldn't eat anything except drinking milk, and even that was just very little. So that's how I started searching things, because I was the kid that never ate well, and I was forced into eating, and I have horrible memories of being forced to eat and throwing up and being told that I was throwing up on purpose. I swore that I would not do that to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And there I was.
Wow.
Everyone was telling me that I had to force her to eat because she was going to get ill, because she was going to get sick, she will never be okay. And I needed to find some answers. I could not believe that the way to go would be to do to her what I felt was done to me in a violent way. That's when I started with a book from a Spanish pediatrician. I started going from one book to the other. Finally, there were some parenting courses showing up, and one thing led to another. And that's when I met you, because I had finished a parenting course. And by the end of it, I realized that I had to do a lot of work with myself. And even though I was in therapy already, because I had searched for doctors before, and they told me that I was fine, I was doing fine. It was just my daughter that was very demanding, and that's how motherhood is. It's hard, and you're supposed to figure it out and to do it. And I didn't felt like it was supposed to be like that. I remember you gave these interviews that included the woman giving the parenting course. So I was listening to them, and there was so much peace in those women that you were interviewing,
Mm.
not in them, but I felt that peace. I was not the only one struggling, and they
Yeah.
all made it. They
Mm.
were doing fine. They were, but they struggled, and they shared that. I remember I was working at the time. I did lost my job after 2 years when my daughter was 2 because I couldn't focus, so I ended up losing it.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking, okay, they made it. There's hope for me.
Mm. I love, love, love hearing your story because, I think this is such a story for many of us that we have a fantasy about how beautiful the pregnancy is going to be or the
Yeah,
birth. And then when that fantasy doesn't become a reality, there can be such a deep place of losing that hope, right? And beginning to turn inward on yourself, right? To beat yourself up, like maybe there was something I did wrong.
yeah,
And such a brutal place that, I know we've all been in our parenting, right? When the external doesn't match our knowing internally. And I just love this in your story. It's like you didn't give up, it didn't look exactly on the external like you wanted, but you were so willing to go in and understand how you could have an internal experience of joy and of loving yourself instead of looking at that external and then putting meaning to it. Well, that means, right, I'm a bad mom, or that means I didn't do well. Something in you was so intact that said, okay, I got to go dig, I got to go explore. There has to be another way.
there was work to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's explore that a little bit. So in this process, so you came in and you found something a little, that what I hear kind of tweaked your interest, like, okay, this is a little different. I think I
Yeah.
want to, even though it's provocative for me and maybe I don't like it, I think I want to hang out here for a little bit. And so you've been hanging out with me for a couple of years now and
Yeah.
then doing this work. So I'm curious if you could share with us a little bit about that change, as you say, as you turned back in. What began to happen for you?
Yeah, it took a while to because first it was shame. There was so much shame in being from, especially in losing my job and getting to that place, and not being with my daughter. I had done a parenting course about conscious movement, conscious parenting.
Mhm.
And so I realized that I could not be that present for my daughter. I just wanted to run away. And then there was this acceptance of everything in working with you and the group and the other ladies in the group. Everything was welcome.
Mhm.
And so slowly it took a long time because it took a long time for me to open up. And slowly I will kind of throw something into the group and I will think, okay, this is it. They will never talk to me again. I'm out. I might not even look at the page anymore. And there
Yeah.
was always acceptance and me too, the thing, like I was not alone. And I was
Mm.
not alone struggling, and I was seeing them and they had their struggles, and I felt this peace and this welcoming that I never felt before. We talked about kindness a lot and how, your core practice, safe seat, and how to take myself to safe seat, and I will take myself to safe seat and I will be there beating myself up or being in
Mhm.
the victim position. And there are a few things that become really game changers.
Mhm.
One was the power of offering kindness to myself, the power that I was really able to take care of myself in an emotional level.
Mhm. It's so potent what you're saying is when you were able to come into the circle of our group and have the reflection of love and acceptance, which maybe you didn't really get so much in your early childhood, that was like it's almost like a reparenting again. You were receiving, and I think we do sometimes have to receive it from the external first, right? Because everybody says,
Yes.
"Oh, be kind to yourself and tell yourself you're
Mm,
nice," right? And it's really hard to do that if you don't have that external. So I hear that you were hearing it from all the mamas, just like a newborn baby would want to see the smile on the mama's face, even when they cried or even when they were hungry or burped or whatever, right? And you
yes.
you
Yes.
kept receiving this like over and over. And like you say, I was surprised because you kept expecting
Yes.
somebody to, pull out. But in receiving that over and over from this beautiful circle of women, what I'm hearing you say is it began to go back inside. So you had an internal voice now that you could hear, that where before you were trying to kind of make that up. And I think this is what happens in conscious parenting. Like, be kind to yourself and be nice. And it's kind of cheap, to say that when you haven't had
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right? That
Totally.
external.
Because, yes, that's a key point. That's
Yes.
what I found.
Mhm.
First, I realized that this group was not about fixing.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
it was not about telling me what to do.
Yes.
So, because I was so much in that position when I was looking for therapy and everything else, like, someone please give me the answer.
Right.
And there were no answers.
Take the pain
There were no,
away, right?
take it away, somebody do something. And it
Right.
was a vicious circle because that's what I wanted from my husband. That's what I wanted from my mother. That's what I wanted from a therapist. That's even what I wanted for my daughter, for
Mhm.
her to behave so I would feel okay.
Yes. Mm.
And she was 1 year old. But yes, and where I feel it in this group, and that's what I always say, it was my secure attachment. I
Mhm.
didn't get it when I was a baby. I
Mhm.
was not giving it to my daughter because I had no idea what it was. And that's what it became. You may call it a million different things according to if you're spiritual or you go do intellectual work,
Mhm.
but that's always what it is. It's safe attachment. And that's what I could not give it to myself before receiving it from others.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, how
And it,
powerful though, and I think we as mamas, it's such a lonely journey, right? It can feel so isolating and we almost feel shame for wanting it or needing it, right? Because we should know and we should have read all the books and we should be able to give it to our children. And I know for myself, just coming into a circle of women, oh my God, it was just like you say, game changing for me, to be able to sit with other women and we laugh. And in my group in Boulder, we call ourselves the mediocre moms. I mean, we can just we can laugh at ourselves, we can love ourselves, we can honor ourselves. I think so many of us as mamas again think it's all on us. Right, it's just me in this. And I think when what was that thing that they always said, "It takes a village," but I think in our culture, it's
yes.
very hard to find a village these days. And that is one thing I do love about the internet and Facebook is, like, we can find our villages.
Yes. And I agree. And usually, when we think it takes a village, at least for me, I used to think that I had to have people taking care of my daughter. So I
Yes!
could go to the
Right?
spa, or I could do
Yes.
this, or I could do that.
Not
And
it.
it's not, it's
Yeah.
someone to see me. It's less doing and more being. How can I accept my daughter who she is if I don't accept myself first?
Right. Right. In my experience, it usually takes around 2 years. I've seen it over and over again in like a 2-year mark, and people go, "Oh my god, that's so long," and I say, "No, it's nothing in a lifetime," right? Because it
Oh,
took
yeah.
you many, many years to have the other patterns, right? And so I know you've been in for over 2 years, so maybe you could,
Yeah.
share a little bit about your current experience.
For me, the only way I can describe it is like during these 2 years, I had another opportunity to be born. And there was times when I felt like a preschooler and I celebrated it and you celebrate it with me. And then I felt like, well, I felt like being born again. And it's not a continuous, but it was a bit like that. I felt like being born again. And then I felt like a preschooler. And then I felt like a teenager and like with the 2 years, I kind of really felt like I was a grown woman.
Mm.
And I still go back. There are moments, and right now I'm struggling with being born again. but there's this security that never existed. There's this peace that never existed. And one amazing thing for me that I've been thinking about, and I don't think I actually mentioned it yet, is I'm kind of wondering why parenting is so easy.
Mhm.
It's just like, and I'm not doing the normal things. I know I'm not, but I'm not. I pick my daughter for lunch, and everyone is against it, but they respect me because there's this way I show up. I don't try to change anyone's mind, and they don't try to change mine. It feels right to me, and I do every day feel like I fall short, and I just offer kindness. And parenting is actually pure joy right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that was my experience too. It's like once I got settled inside and started, loving myself and offering kindness, the parenting was easy. But I would love for you to speak about, because I think some people think, well, that means my kids behave and that means, that everything looks good out of that fantasy again, right? And that's not, in my experience, what happens. And I know it's not yours either. So
No.
maybe you could speak, about what it looks like in your home today, like, in that pure
Okay.
joy. It's not that so your daughter is acting perfectly and giving you everything you want, right?
Oh no. No, my
No.
daughter has a new short hair because she cut all her hair. And when I took her to the hairdresser, she said, "Oh my God, I never saw a kid doing that, doing this much cutting."
Well, I
And
do have
like,
to say I love this story because you were complaining about her hair for years, about washing
yes.
her hair. And I laughed when I told you, well, she just took it in her own hands.
And I think that's the pure joy, that that little piece where we just learn to be with what it is, and
Mhm.
we see the advantages of it. And I
Yeah.
remember when I came home because she was alone with my father, and she cut her hair. And when I came and I saw she had a boy cut, and I thought, oh my God, it's gonna be so easy now to wash her hair.
Yes.
I always give this example. I was putting her in the bath like a caged animal, like I was taking an animal to be slaughtered or something. It
Mhm.
was not okay for me to do that. It was not okay for me to pick up my daughter and have her, I don't remember the words, but debating and fighting for her life just because she was going for a bath.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it was not okay to give her a bath. And it's fine. I wish it was, but it was not okay for me to go for a long time without a bath. And I had to find a middle ground, meaning that I had to find a way. I couldn't talk to her. She was 2.5 by that time, so I couldn't reason with her. And being playful was all it took, being play. And sometimes it took like half an hour of play before getting into the bathtub.
Mhm.
And now it wasn't. Now it was a lot easier. And I guess I wasn't even thinking about the play, it was just coming naturally. But the hair short is just, oh, it's so easy. And I don't
Yeah.
have to dry it. And it's kind of amazing. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah, I wondered when you were gonna get that one. It took 2 years, but that's okay.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
another thing I wanna stress in this parenting, and what we do is we inquire. I'm not sitting in as an expert to tell you how to parent. This is all, how you find yourself, right? You found your own way, because I could have told you, I think I probably did tell you 2 years ago, "Why don't you just cut her hair?"
You did. You did. But I wasn't willing to.
Exactly. So,
You did.
I find we get in those states like Marcia said, we get like preschoolers or whatever. It's like, no, don't tell me,
No.
even though I can tell you. It's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to find
Yeah.
my way. And that's what I just want to really stress, that that's what I found for myself. And I find with other mamas and papas is that we really, really, just like your daughter wanted to find her way, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be validated for that we have wisdom, that we do know. We know ourselves. And in this work, we try to keep challenging and questioning our conditioning. I have to know myself and what other people say about me. And it's really hard because, especially when you go to the playground, right? And other people, you think they're judging you or they're looking at you. It's really hard to, as one of my friends said yesterday, to stay in your own lane. I love that. She goes, with my child, I had to learn how to stay in my own lane and not get over in her lane or not get over in someone else's lane, right?
I
And I
have
was like,
I have
what
a
a
good example
oh,
about
please. Yeah.
yes, bedtime, which is so I'm a early go to bed early person, and my daughter is a late to go to bed kind of girl. So of course, being a conscious mother, there's no TV. It was a struggle. Lots of crying. It was a nightmare. And as she was growing older, sometimes was easier, but most of the times was getting harder. But what I'm getting is I did introduce TV and I felt very guilty about it. But I was in an unconscious place at this time. So I would either go like, okay, just watch TV, I don't care. And then I will turn it off and she will fall asleep. But then I will move into this new knowledge or more go into conscious parenting. And I have to get rid of TV and help her to go to sleep, because if I'm a good mother, she would fall asleep easily with me reading to her and with other kind practices. And so it's all about me. And it never worked. And it never worked. It was just, she could cry I remember this time that she cried for like half an hour, and I actually videotaped it. And then I shared it in the group. And I thought I was doing a good thing because I thought she was healing some kind of thing and she was crying. And you were very kind. You were very kind. And you suggested, usually it kind of, I don't know how you said it, but it was in a kind way. But what you meant is, it pisses me off whenever a mother is so calm and the child is crying so much. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? And then you ask me, what are you not being emotionally safe? How are you not being emotionally safe? And first I was really mad at you because I thought I was really doing a good job with that one. And now you're creating a new problem for me. So but whenever I was able to calm down, I was like, okay. And I realized that for me, bedtime is when I have no energy. I'm just a mess. So she will catch that. And on top of that, I needed her to go to sleep early so I could do some work, so I could have some alone time. So we co-sleep. We still do. So that I could have some time of my own. And she was not willing to do that. She was not. That was not her agenda. Agenda was to stay up as much as she could, because going to sleep for her, it's scary. It still is. That's when I had to open to all these new ideas that included TV. And own my choice, meaning that there was some days I could figure it out that I could help her to go to sleep without TV. I could read to her. There was a lot of things I could do, and she will go to sleep without the TV. The thing was, there was too much for me. Too much. I was not willing to go through that every night. So I included TV in our bedtime, and now she actually falls asleep with TV. And it's really easy. And we have our time, we play, and then she watches TV, and then she falls asleep. And some days when she's really tired, I even get a half an hour for myself after that before I go to bed. I go to sleep myself. But there's that demon, like, if I'm a good mother, the TV should always be off. So it's this thing, like finding your own answers and
because that's that external voice that's
yes,
talking
that's
to
the
you.
external voice, and that's the external pressure, and that comes from the internal, because it can.
Yes, you're divided against yourself,
Yes,
because your
that's what.
own being. And I love when you say, when I get to myself, it's not ever about the TV then. As I always say, it's never about what you think it's about. For a child, it's about being strong in ourselves. When we doubt ourselves, it's pretty scary for them. right? Because then we're
Yes.
looking to them to tell us if we're okay or not. We're looking to them to tell us, are we good mothers or not, or good dads, right? And so when we know ourselves and when we're clear in our own being and we trust our own wisdom, that's the secure piece more than the TV or not the TV. And this is a hard one to get because we have so many people telling us outside, you should give them this good food, no TV, no this, and that, and the other. And we start to divide against ourselves. Like you say, it's like, oh my God, I want to do this right. That's kind of the shadow of conscious parenting for me. I wanted to do everything right. And my daughter, I wasn't paying attention to my daughter. I wasn't attuned,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I was doing it right, but I wasn't attuned. And she was trying to help me. I would get her off the computer and then she would move to food and I'd get her to eat good food and then it would move to something else. And then the rabbit kept running around until I finally did, as you say, I started having to say, okay, this is me. I've got to be true to me. And then everything began to relax for my daughter also because she saw me trusting myself.
But it's a lot more than parenting. All my life shifted, and I got to heal a lot of stuff with my mother that, and especially in my marriage, it shifted a lot. And we do work
Yes.
in
Yeah.
the group around marriages a lot.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful. That everything is welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that because I think we often come in for parenting because we love our children so much. And yet, as we, start to have that pure joy in our parenting, it often will move into our relationships with our spouses or partners. And then it'll move back with our mothers and fathers. And, it travels back because what we're working on here are the core feelings that we felt as children that we weren't able to tolerate. And so we organized our lives not to feel them. And then we have these beautiful little ones that begin to feel all those feelings. And they offer us the opportunity to go back and pick up the pieces, parts of ourselves that we stored away deep inside our treasure chest. And we get to come back home. That's how I always see it. So thank you, love. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here.
Thank you. It was
All
my
right.
pleasure.
This week, I'd like to thank Marcia, our lovely mama, for joining me today and sharing her journey of parenting. Parenting Paused is produced by Kim Paletti at Sound Mind Productions. Music by Jan Perchik. You can find the show notes at www.purejoyparenting.com, where you'll get access to the foundational practice of Pure Joy, the safe seat, and find links to relevant topics, as well as a transcription of the show. And if this work inspires you and you would like to practice, come join us in my free Pure Joy Parenting Practice group. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for being here today and listening to the Parenting Pause podcast, your partner and support in finding the joy in yourself and with your children. And remember, if you're about to scream, pause.